Hey there, listeners, and welcome to Project Zero Season 2. The goal is same as last season, but this year we're going to hear journeys of some of the best project leaders in the game, but they're going to give us a little different insight, give us a little bit more of an opinion about where AI is taking us and the kind of impact it's having on the industry. So my name is Alex Tuck, and I'm the host. I'm here with the bearded PM, founder of 44 Risk PM, Russ Parker. Welcome to the podcast, Russ.
Hey, thanks for having me there, Alex.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about your Project Zero. It's actually a surprise. Usually I talk to folks and I already know about their Project Zero, but I actually don't know yours. So I'm excited to hear it. Hey, Russ, start us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Yeah, so I am obviously said Russ Parker. I am the owner of 44 Risk PM, and I like to say that I teach, coach, and mentor new and aspiring project managers, project risk managers, and leaders. So obviously, Risk PM, risk management is central around really what I like to do and talk about. And just started teaching actually the PMI RMP exam prep courses based off the new PMI material. Had my first course last month, and my first student passed the RMP just yesterday from when we're recording this. So I'm an active project manager in the financial sector. So I do that on top of running my own little small startup here. And really, my whole focus is just on, again, teaching, coaching, and mentoring. That's really what I want to do and make sure I help develop the next generation of project managers.
I love that, Russ, because I mean, especially for the audience, like the majority of our audience is like either early or mid stage project managers trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the next cert that I should go for? What's the next jump that I can make? And everyone has their own journey. Like
Yep.
I wasn't a project manager early in my life, right? And neither were you. And so like just hearing the journeys will be fun. So I'm excited to see what we talk about here. Let's get started. How did you get into project management originally?
Yeah. So I don't like to use the term accidental PM. I hear that all the time. But for
Yeah.
me, I got into project management through my wife. So when I met my wife and ended up moving out to California, she decided that she was going to do this project management piece. She'd been doing a contractor role with the State Department, doing project management. So she started studying for the PMP. I was obviously just going to work for the Marine Corps, and I was helping her study, though, like any good spouse would do. You help them study. And while I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, I do some of this. I I know this process. This looks very similar to what I do in the Marine Corps. And she ended up taking past the PMP, got a job as a project manager. But I was like, I never want to do that. That looked absolutely terrible. All that studying, all the note cards, all the PMBOK, how thick that thing was. And I remember how stressed she was on test day. And I was like, I'm never going to do that. Fast forward a few years later, I'm now getting out of the Marine Corps. I am, getting ready for retirement. And I had to do what everyone in the military does. I had to sit down and think to myself, what do I want to do when I grow up? What is it I actually want to do now that I'm leaving the Marine Corps? All I'd really done for 20 years is lead Marines and do logistics. That's really what I was in. I was logistics. I had a master's in transportation and logistics management. And I didn't want to do civilian logistics. I knew that. Honestly, my type of logistics, if I can't put a gun up on top of a truck and go into some fun stuff, like then it's not as exciting for doing UPS delivery and just having standardized routes everywhere. Like just didn't get me excited. So my wife and I are talking, the project management piece came up, and I was with an organization and they brought up a certified Scrum Master course. So I was like, all right. So I took the certified Scrum Master. And while I was taking that course, I was like, man, this is actually what I've been doing. Even I've been doing Marine Corps planning, I've been doing logistics. I've really been doing this thing, and, like sprints and Kanban boards. I was like, man, I've actually been doing all of this. I just never called it any of these terms. And so I got the CSM and I was like, maybe this PMP thing's not such a bad idea. So got in touch with an organization again, this great organization. Anyone out there ever heard of it? It's called Onward Opportunity, and they help pay for the PMP for veterans, especially as they're coming out of the military. So they got me linked into a PMP course, and yeah, from there, I fell in love with it. It matched so well with what I was doing. And especially when I got to the risk management side, if I pulled up the risk management PMI documents and I showed you the joint planning documents or joint planning doctrine around risk management, you'd be surprised how much of it lines up together. They
Overlaid
copied.
the two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they copied. Someone copied from somebody. Don't know who, I'm gonna assume the military copied from the PMI side of the house. But yeah, like it clicked so well. And so got the PMP, went straight for the ACP, got the RMP, and then ended up getting the job working again in the financial sector. If you want to talk about going into a whole new world, try going from the military doing logistics to technology in a bank. You're like, if it just shows that if you know how to manage a project, you know how to manage a project. And it doesn't matter what sector you're really in. But that is really how it went from Marine to moving into project management. It all started with my wife getting her PMP.
I love it. That is so cool. I have done technology at a bank, so I can appreciate exactly what that transition looked like. Oh man, what a cool
I'm,
story.
I'm still learning new terms every day sometimes.
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
know. Yeah. It's always like it's almost like you just have to like pretend. I don't want to say like pretend. Pretend's not the right word. Just like accidental PM is not the right term for what a lot of us are. But especially in the financial sector, it's like there's all this gatekeeping and new terms and acronyms and stuff like that.
yeah,
And yeah.
the govern and the governance. I thought the
Yeah.
military had a lot of governance and like, oh man.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild. It's people's money, I guess, but still, it's wild.
Yeah.
I love to ask this question to folks. I usually can guess the right direction, but were you as a kid more organized, like structured, or was that a skill that you had to learn?
That's a skill I had to learn.
Yeah.
I am still very much I mean, I do a lot more planning nowadays, but definitely as a
Uh-huh.
kid, I was the wake up and be like, what are we gonna do today? Just go do it. Just had fun. Even I like to always say, so in the military again, a lot of planning. That was my job. I was a planner, especially when I became an officer. I was planning, planning, planning. And in 2012, I did a year-long deployment to Afghanistan. And I was the last one in my unit to actually go on what we call R&R, rest and relaxation. And I was going to Europe for 2 weeks by myself. And my boss was like, Russ, what are you going to do in Europe? I was like, I have no idea. He's like, what do you mean you have no idea? I go, I'm flying into Paris and I'm flying out of Amsterdam. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, so you have no idea what you're doing. You have no reservations. I'm like, nope. I am literally just going to show up. I was like, I've had to plan every day of my life for the past 8, 9 months, whatever it was. I was like, I am just going to literally wake up and just decide what I'm doing. And I did it for 2 weeks and it was great. I think that's where I naturally sit. I like to be more spontaneous in ways. But I think growing up, having kids, being married, a lot more planning to the point where working with contractors when they try and get some stuff done at the house, I think I even throw them for a loop of all my questions that I ask them.
I love it. I love it. I'm the same way. I'm the least organized person in my house, except for when we have a very specific project that we do have to manage, like vacation or something like that.
Hmm.
I have 4 kids, like you
You
can't
can't.
have too much.
No, yeah, there's so much. Even I mean, just going for a 2-hour car ride.
Yeah,
There's so much planning you got to do now.
that's right. Cool. All right. I think it's time. Let's hear about your Project Zero. So, for any listeners who haven't listened before, Project Zero is like that first project where, things clicked for you as a project manager. Could have been a success, could have been a failure, whatever it is. You learned a lot about what real project management is versus, getting your PMP, right? And all the theoretical things that come with that, right? So, hey Russ, what's your Project Zero?
So yeah, so I mean, you again not knowing what project management was until last little less than 10 years ago when I met my wife and she did the PMP. If I had to look back, when I realized just, you know, planning in general, if I had to go back to like my origination of when I realized if I can plan and I can use steps and coordination and stakeholders and all that, it would have to go back to being 19 in Iraq. So I was a optics technician. I worked on optics. That was my job. I was in an armory. I worked on night vision. I worked on tow missile systems and different optics. I was given a task, a project that got put together where I had to add a modification to everyone's night vision device. And there's like 100 and something night vision devices spread out all over El Anbar province, because these are going down to individuals who are on real life missions. They are doing day to day work. It was just given to me, and they're like, hey, you're the optics guy. Figure out what you're going to do. We just, you know, so I had to pull up a whole list of all these different optics. I had to coordinate where do these all sit? Who are the individuals that have them? Luckily, there's paperwork that helps us figure that piece out. Wasn't a lot of guesswork with that. And I had to put together, okay, this is my timeline. These are the bases I would go to. This is the equipment I would need. These are the convoys I would have to jump on. This is the time I'd have to spend there because that would dictate if the convoy waited for me or if they were going to leave me there for a day or two. And obviously, it's Iraq, 2005. Risk management was very critical to a lot of this. Um, so you know, so looking back, like that was the first time that anyone ever looked at me and said, this is what we need. This is the end state you have to get to. Here's your goal. What now? What now? At the time I was a Lance Corporal. They're like, what, give us your plan. And I had a few days. I put together a plan, coordinated with all our logistics department, our operations department to make sure that those optics would be available when I got there. And we just started going. And I would have to provide status for, I'd go out for a week, come back, provide a status report. I have 30 out of 100 done. And they're like, okay. And I'm coming. Then next week I go back out somewhere, come back and give us in these numbers. Obviously I had to go up to a higher until it was done. And, in the grand scheme of like huge projects I've worked on, probably not the biggest. But again, looking back, like that's definitely that probably got the itch going when it comes to being successful through planning and understanding who your individuals are, what resources you need, and just going through the methodical process of what in the Marine Corps I knew at the time, which was we called OSMIAC or the troop leading steps when it comes to orientation, situation, mission, execution, admin, logistics, command and control, like knowing how to plan at very micro level, vice how that turned into later when I was a lieutenant and captain, so on and so forth, where I use that in more a larger level and gave that information down to those individuals who did the detailed planning like I did. So if I had to pick one area, that would be my Project Zero. That is definitely where it all started for me.
That's a heck of a Project Zero, man. Holy crap. So you were making stuff up as you went, right? Like you didn't really know how you were going to attack it. Did you have a mentor or someone that you could bounce ideas off of that were helping guide you? Or were you really just figuring it out on your own?
I had a sergeant that was there. Yeah, the problem was like they were all armory, like they were all armors, right? So yeah, he helped me out with a lot of stuff, but when it came to like how I did my work, it was kind of different because I was on the electronic side, working on again all this stuff. But at the end of the day, yeah, he was definitely the one that guided me through a lot of that. A lance corporal can't just walk up to a captain and be like, "Hey, sir, like, can you put me on this convoy?" Like, no, the sergeant would have to be my conduit to get to a lot of those individuals.
Was there any big thing that you planned that went wrong during that was a vivid memory for you?
I was in a vehicle rollover that ended up breaking some of my equipment, and let's see, getting to a base, and they're like, "Oh, that person's out on patrol." And you're like, "Oh, great," So it was definitely, yeah. There's a lot of just nuances. I had to go back there the following week. You know, it took a lot longer than we originally thought it would.
Uh-huh.
But again, those are lessons learned I took future in just my life of like, okay, what do you have to take into, you know, what do you have to take into the planning, into consideration whenever you're doing these things. So again, later as I grew, I gained rank, and I had individuals that I would give these type of jobs to. I at least gave them a little more guidance on what to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my God. Just figuring stuff out when you're 19, man. It's like, you know, you do it. I mean,
Yeah,
like you're the expert, right? Like, I mean, there's no one else that knows how to do what you're doing. It's wild.
it was an interesting time. I mean,
Yeah.
overall.
Cool. So speaking of like you were talking about, as you ranked up and got to mentor the younger folks that were coming in, would love to transition into like some lessons and changes with mindset and growth from a project management perspective, right? What do you think the number one skill is for project managers? And like why is it so important?
Well, I'm kind of biased in that area. I'd say risk management is
Fair.
definitely, yeah. Like for me, it's risk. You know, again, coming from the military, risk for me was always a big aspect. I mean, it came from, I'd say, if you want to go to my project zero with a risk, is whenever I completely disregarded risk management and I got called out by a senior leader. So I was a lieutenant, a
Mm.
nice, what we call butter bar second lieutenant. Um, and I just blew some stuff off. I copied somebody else's work, submitted it. No one asked me a question until I got called into my lieutenant colonel's office. And let's just say he did not have a very nice conversation with me, especially because we were planning to go to Afghanistan. I was a platoon commander. And, you know, definitely something you don't see in the civilian side, but like, I got called out on almost my character. He's like, I would, he gave me the responsibility to do planning in that area, especially the risk management side. And I didn't do it because I was busy. And he's like, how can I trust you in Afghanistan to take care of your Marines?
Yeah.
And it switched my mindset of, I have individuals who can do day-to-day planning. They can do the coordination. As the officer, my job was the risk side. My job was to think about what could go wrong, what could go right, how do I capitalize on the good stuff, and how do I take care of the bad stuff? And how do I make sure that at the end of the day, my Marines come home alive while we're in combat? So again, like I said, that carried over into risk management. Now today, people's lives aren't at stake with my work, but the concept still stays there where a lot of people just blow off risk management. They don't think through risk management in detail. They're like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I know what could go wrong. That's not the right answer. The right answer is you got to create the documentation. You have to go through the process. New things happen. You've been working for 10 years. AI is a new concept. What is AI going to impact? Is there opportunities to this project that we haven't seen before? Is there a threat to our project and now we haven't seen before? So taking the time to just go through the risk management process the way it's structured just provides you so much value that people skip. And I had to learn it the hard way by literally, getting my character called out of me and just getting one of the biggest butt chewings I've probably ever received in my life. And, you know, I was, I, let's say, I learned my lesson from that, obviously. I had a good career afterwards. But yeah, when it comes to me, it's just risk management, it's all around us. And if we don't take it serious, then you're going to see events like during COVID. COVID hit and no one was prepared.
Yep.
Whereas simple risk management probably could have gotten people at least not, well, not simple. That would have been very strategic level risk management to think about some of the outcomes that came about with that. But hopefully that teaches us that we have to prepare for the unknown. And the only way you're going to do that is to get in the room and just think through what are the threats and opportunities to your projects, your programs, your portfolios, and your organization as a whole.
Yeah, I love that. Russ, you are, if I'm not mistaken, you're the very first person that on I don't know, 28 episodes or something that has mentioned risk management as the most important skill. And I have to agree with you. I think that that's my go-to is risk management because honestly, everything else can sort of be done by technology. Not everything. I mean, communication is really important too, right? But our job as PMs is to make sure that we understand what can go wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
then if we know what can go wrong, we have to figure out how to fix that,
Yeah.
or how can we exploit a potential positive opportunity with that risk, right? So I love it. I love it. I'm glad that you mentioned it. We got the opportunity to talk about it because it is that's all. I think that's the most important thing that we do, right?
In my eyes, yeah. I mean, leadership's up there.
For
Also,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah. But I mean, it's so hard to pick one. And that's why I love that question because it's interesting to see where people's heads go. Because communication is a really easy one. And I love, even when people say communication, I push them a little bit and they go like a step further and they're like, this
Mm-hmm.
type. My favorite thing is Sabi Warwick. He talked about communication influence in communication, right? Like our job as PMs is not just to communicate, it's to communicate effectively, it's to influence the outcomes. And so whether it's risk management and trying
Yeah.
to influence how that goes, really important. So I love that question just because it's a tough one. It's an impossible one to answer, really.
It definitely something I've thought a lot about.
Yeah, we have to talk about it, right? Like you already mentioned it, AI, right? You know, where are you seeing AI be used in project management? How's it going to change project management, in the next couple of years? What's your vision?
So for me, I think AI is going to allow project managers to be project managers and get away from the admin side. Anyone who's out there listening to this who does project management knows you have spent hours researching information that is sitting in a share drive, is sitting somewhere else.
Yep.
You've spent hours, even me, like a year and a half ago, 50% of my work was doing meeting minutes and updating documents. Where now my meeting minutes take me 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
that's just so I can review them from what the AI spit out. I can review, change this, change that, add the format here, send out. I don't have to worry about it. Now I have 45, 50 minutes to focus on the project and
Yep.
actually what I'm being paid to do, not develop meeting minutes all day. Because I was literally, you sit in 5 hours of meetings. The rest of my day was just doing meeting minutes, updating documents, getting, now that you click one thing, it updates across the board. All these different aspects, it's allowing project managers to do what they're paid to do. And as to actually coordinate, to work with the teams, find the problems. Like I always like to say, project managers, we work with people and solve problems. But you can't do that when you're stuck in all the admin tasks. And then when it comes to my favorite risks, being able, or just, and I guess project management in general, but for me, risk management, the way I think about it, that initial bunch, you can look at all your historical data, right? I was planning a project in 2019. COVID messed it all up for a exercise in Egypt. So I was the lead planner for Egypt. When I got to look back at all the lessons learned from when we done that exercise in Egypt, all the way, I mean, like when General Mattis, who was Secretary Mattis, back when he was Captain Mattis, ran this. But I mean, I spent two
Oh,
weeks
yeah,
going through all that documents, reading through, searching, trying to figure out, taking notes, all this stuff. Whereas if I had an AI component, I could have got all that historical data and I could have pulled the information I needed in a couple hours.
yeah,
It just speeds up your process. But again, it allows you to focus on what matters. It has
yep,
actually coordinating and talking and ensuring that everything you're pulling together is put into an idea that is actually feasible for the organization. So for
yeah,
me, I think AI, the role it's going to play is it's going to allow PMs to be more impactful, bring that greater value to their organizations because they're not stuck doing all the administrative tasks. And in turn, organizations are going to get more out of it because they can move a little faster. It's going to take less money, save more money to get to the point of where they need to be.
yep,
Because again, the individuals aren't spending half their time just doing meeting minutes and doing simple administrative tasks that can now take 5 minutes. So
yeah.
that's my vision. At least that is how it's helping me out a lot right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think we're just going to continue to find new ways to take the minutia out of things and take all the monotony out of our day jobs. I think that we're going to get more really skilled, communicators, like really skilled leaders. I think we're going to start to see them coming to project management. One, because work's going to be less boring, right? Project management, everyone thinks like, oh, it's the most boring thing. It's because building project plans and slides and stuff like that all day, meeting minutes all day. Now, if you like communicating, but you don't want to do any of that stuff, you might go into the industry. So I think you're spot on, right? Like we're going to continue to cut out all the stuff that we hate doing anyway, right? Were you in the session at PMI Global? There was a healthcare panel. One of the things that I heard that I had never thought of, and I felt like embarrassed that I didn't think of it, but like, everyone in the room was also like, wow, that's a really cool way to use AI. They were like, how many people, one of the panelists is like, how many people here have a lessons learned log?
I think I
And
remember
then,
this. Yeah.
yeah, I think you're in the room with me. And then half the room raised their hand and they're like, how many people looked at the lesson learned log before the kickoff of their last project? And like three people raised their hands. And they're like, all right, here's a hack. And so basically, like, they were like, all right, like, use AI to ingest all the data from the lessons learned log, describe your current project, and ask it to populate, the top 5 risks that might happen here. And I was just like, oh my God, this is it's like such a good idea, so much value. This is what AI was built for. So anyway, I love little hacks like that. So cool.
I am like, I think when it comes to lessons learned, if you or anyone who's listening, go check out, there's this thing, it's called the Marine Corps Center for Lessons Learned. And I'll tell you right now, if you do a little research in with like the military has been doing, especially for me, I just know the Marine Corps, I know the Army and everyone else has something similar. But, when I was like a captain and I was going, hey, you got to go run this range, I could go to what we call, just man, I can't remember what the acronym is, but
Yeah.
the Marine Corps Center for Lessons Learned. I would go to this website and I can pull up 50 different iterations from when that range had been ran. And I can look at 50 other captains of what they went through. And then I can put that in that and allowed me to be better at what I did. And then at the end, I took my lessons learned, I put it into the system. You know, I am a huge supporter of lessons learned because I saw how if you do it the right way. Now, granted, it's a huge investment for the military, but it really does help out in the long run. Going back to Egypt, I learned so much before I even stepped foot in the country and started interacting with the Egyptian military because of everyone's lessons learned.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the most underrated tool
Oh
in
yeah,
project management. Like, we don't share enough information with each other. I mean, like, that's what I love about running a consulting firm, because like we have 60 consultants that all throw like all these lessons learned on projects they've like we didn't do the projects, but they learned, these PMs are bringing this experience. We don't do enough retrospective look backs to see, how do we not fail again the same way that all of these other people have failed? Or how do we succeed? How do we set ourselves up for success? So yeah, it's that risk management and lessons learned. So
exactly.
cool. Awesome. Hey, I like that feels like a good stopping point there, Russ. I really appreciate all the advice that you gave, your stories. Thanks for sharing all of that with us.
I appreciate being here. It's always great to talk about it.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. And thanks to everyone that joined us today at Project Zero. Be sure to subscribe if you don't already to Project Zero, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will catch you next time with another great project leader story.